Welcome to the Scene Weekly podcast, where we harken back to our college debate days and pick two movies of the same theme, like Jack Bauer actually needed all 24 hours of the day. This week's episode is focused on movies that exist in a 24-hour time period, with After Hours taking on the streets of La Haine. Come join Jonathan and Steven for another week of desirably less plot chatter and hopefully more film banter. We are Scene Weekly, and welcome to our world.
Look at that. Look at that coffee mug you got there.
Delicious.
It's
New branding.
It's a good logo on that coffee mug, I got to tell you.
We've got a mixture of half and half share alike between water and seltzer. And as if you needed more watered down seltzer, you've got it in this easy to buy. Is it easy to buy? I don't even know. Was it easy to buy?
It was easy to make.
Six of you you made this with your own bare hands?
Yeah, I sculpted it.
Steven bought this for me. I bought him some slides, I think, as the cool kids
slippers, slides, yeah.
I don't know, sandals, non-Crocs, and he bought it, and then the next day, hi, just checking in. Has something like the coffee cups? Did you get some in the last 24 hours?
Again, I texted you, so if that's the way you read my text, then
bated breath.
Yeah.
In anticipation of the excitement, where I wanted to just show up here and do that without any of the backstory. But anyway, 4 hours and 24 hours, I should say, movies that exist over a 24-hour period. A lot of fun. A lot of strangely, you can get into a lot more. I mean, let's be honest, Jack Bauer was able to get into a lot of shit, flying around different places. But one is flying around New York, one is flying around, France. But
did you ever watch the show 24? Was that on your rotation?
Only recently, though. I didn't watch it when it came out. I know that we had varieties of friends, actually, that really enjoyed old Jack in his element, and in particular, JP loved Jack Bauer and would watch it relentlessly. So I guess I've seen maybe bits of episodes here and there. I will say this, I have only seen it recently, but after, I don't know how many episodes there are in each season, I think maybe like 20 or something like that, but I remember getting to like 15 on the first. I remember getting to 8 in the first. I was like, this show's amazing. And then by 15, I was like, I get it. And also,
it's a little bit of a grind. Yeah.
I was like, how long does this go? That many seasons, I don't know if I could do this. I was like, I'm out. I do that a lot, though.
What episode does he go to the bathroom? He's got to go to the bathroom, right? Like, this is...
I actually thought on both of these movies, I was like, is somebody going to eat? Is somebody going to pee? Like, especially in La Haine, I was like, aren't people hungry by now?
Yeah.
Like, or maybe we just haven't seen it. Or like normal, typical events that would exist in a 24-hour period for a normal human, I should add, not like robots. Not like you. I know that you can act like a human from time to time, but oftentimes I think you're alien.
It's all about the charade. Yeah, I try.
Yeah, the charade.
Very hard. The
Charade. Speaking in words strangely, have you ever used your microwave recently?
Funny thing enough, when I moved here a little over 2 years ago, I was doing a lot of apartment searching and things like that. And the apartment that I chose did not come with a microwave. So I currently do not own a microwave in my apartment. I don't have one. I don't need the cancer rays and stinking up my house.
I want to end this forever. First of all, you haven't even been there 2 years, have you?
Yeah, I have.
That's shocking. Secondly, you haven't bought a microwave or the need for like a hot pocket just being drunk one night?
No, I have an air fryer for that, so I use my air fryer. It does come in handy, but I do my oven like baking when things, you read the back of a frozen thing. He's like, microwave instructions, conventional oven instructions. I always have to do like, man, this is going to take 30 minutes as opposed to 2 minutes. But,
Dwight from The Office actually, I don't think had children, just as yourself. I don't think you also have children, at least that we've communicated with each other about. And he used the microwave on the show of The Office to when Angela was, when he didn't want to provide his sperm to their contractual agreement. How do you do the same with an air fryer?
How do I do what?
You don't remember the show? He put his penis and genitalia
I
up,
don't remember
up on
that
the microwave,
episode.
up on the microwave, so that he. Speaking of cancer, right?
Yeah,
He
yeah.
could not have children, and his sperm would be not so obligated to produce a child,
There,
an offspring.
I,
And so I'm curious, like, do you do that with your air fryer?
I don't think the air fryer is has that setting.
Oh, you
I
know,
could
so you've tried.
well, yeah, yeah. It's just one of those things that it's a test and fail kind of thing. But we're getting there.
Test four letters, testes. If you keep
Yeah.
going, but yeah, I get it. What are you drinking over there?
I am drinking a Bundaberg ginger beer. That's what I got
Is it a
here.
beer with ginger?
No, it's a ginger with beer, I guess. No, it's just a nice ginger beer, nice sparkling flavored soda.
Oh, so there's no beer.
No beer. Yeah, we're abstaining
There's
from
no
the alcohol
alcohol.
right now. Yeah.
Look at that. How many days are you in?
Just a few, like 9 days.
A few is 9 to Steven, just to be clear. We could put that down on our marks here. But what are we working with? A few is 3 to 5 for me, just to be clear. I think I'm maybe even delve into more than that. But dark chocolate, Icelandic dark chocolate, by the way. I don't treat myself to anything these days. I've been I haven't had a brewski in this podcast. I would normally have like bottles of wine, but I haven't had any for I don't know. It's over a month now. But and I've dropped like 10 pounds as well in the same time period. Looking at a nice 156 might be disgusting to some people out there, probably most people out there. But dark chocolate is a treat. My goodness. I used to treat myself at the very beginning of this journey. I'd be eating like these gluten free that not naturally, I don't even know. Pretzels from Whole Foods are terrific. The sticks, unbelievable. But I would just be, eating a whole bag and then going into my second bag, and I'm like, this does it nicely. Like 3 of these.
Wait, you did 2 bags of pretzels?
Yeah, which are smaller bags.
Okay.
Hmm.
Dark chocolate is an aphrodisiac.
Yeah, I'm looking at you, and boy, I like aliens. Mm. Where are your tentacles? You probably use a microwave to shrew them away.
Yeah, that's what I
Anyway,
did.
how did we get here? 24. Look at us, episode 24. Can't believe we made it this far. Can't believe we're continuing to make it this far. But this was your idea, 24-hour movies. I like the idea of it. Why did you choose After Hours? Because I had never heard of this movie. I never
Interesting
heard of
that.
Martin Scorsese, the director of it, either.
Oh, right, right. So you've never one of the classic American directors of our time. But After Hours is one of those films that I hadn't really known about until a couple of years ago when I was again listening to another movie podcast, and they mentioned this, and the people that were talking about it spoke so highly of it and said it was like one of the Scorsese's that is never in the conversation of like the Goodfellas, The Departed,
Mm,
Mean Streets, and those films, and it needs to be. Um,
yeah.
and I was like, well, if that's the case, then I need to check this little movie out. And I watched it, I think it was a year or two ago. I loved it, and I was like, if we ever get to that 24-hour movie podcast
Yeah.
episode, this is the one I'm picking.
If I ever make a podcast and we ever make it to episode 24 and we have an agreement to us to decide upon the same thing about 24-hour movies, I'm going to choose After Hours. There's a lot of ifs.
A lot of steps in place, but you know
If
what? You got to
aliens
make
can make things happen.
you got to make a plan.
There was this subversive. I want to know the mind control powers that you have. Is
Yeah,
it a machine that you use, or is it like words?
it's kind of like a microwave.
A
Some set
microwave.
a microwave. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wav. Microwave. I
Now, how did you come up with your film, La Haine? La Haine.
I very much enjoy it. And that was pretty much it. Yeah, I knew there's a variety of 24-hour films came to my mind, not of any importance of After Hours because I had no idea it existed to begin with. Um, yeah, it was pretty much it. That was the first and the last that came to my head, and I was like, "That's it. I'm just gonna choose this."
Interesting, because while I've heard of this film and know of it, it was a first time watch for me.
What?
Yeah.
Again, I don't really believe this anymore. I'm actually legitimately not believing this anymore. Because like especially last week when we were deciding upon this, and you were like, "Oh, we can get cute now." You had no idea what you're even saying to begin with, first of all. But you probably have like the Neuralink chip in your head that was like, "Use the words. Now we're getting cute now," and like the alien was able to come out. But like, I don't think that's there. I don't believe you. First of all, second of all, because I had to have told you about this film at least 15 years ago. At this point, I mean, Sony has seen this like 10 years ago with me. It's a fantastic film. They're both fantastic. I'm going to go ahead and skirt all of our typical duties of building up to anything, I guess, for that matter. Nobody's listening to the end. Let's be honest. Do you think anyone listens to the end of like, I just like nobody has said a comment? We got our first hater. Thank you. I hope you're watching. We're going to take locks just as seriously as we do La Haine and After Hours, and hopefully you'll be here for the After Hours for our
It's going to
breakdown.
be serious.
Yeah. I was actually pretty excited about that. But nonetheless, to get into immediate hatred because nobody's going to listen to it after this, I this is my drum roll, or more like an engine starting that doesn't have very much power. It's like 50 cc's. I would take After Hours more than I would take Goodfellas. Most of his movies.
Interesting. Wow.
Hmm.
Okay.
Most.
Most.
And I don't know how I frame Martin. I think he's an unbelievably terrific director. I just think that no matter how you slice, dice, cut, The Departed, it's great, but it's not this. And I like weird. I actually wish After Hours got more weird. Like there was
It could
multiple.
have, yeah.
Yeah, there was so many times I was like, "Come on, do it, Martin, do it, do it. You can do this, you can do this." And I was like, "Please go the extra step here, just one more step." And then like some people are probably like, "Go six more steps." I'm like, I don't need to go six more steps. Like six more is like where people are getting beheaded and like you're just doing weird things to each other. Like this was like a weird that I very much enjoyed. The Holy Mountain in
Do
particular.
you want to hear what? Because we're getting into this film a little bit, but
Yeah,
speaking on the point of getting weird with this, the original ending, because they didn't have an ending to it.
yeah, I know.
And do you want to know what the original ending was going to be?
Do tell me.
So
You're
instead
gonna go
of
back to work.
uh, so he meets that June character, that kind of motherly figure that takes him and puts him in that plaster mold. Well, instead of putting him in the plaster mold, he was going to um, crawl into her vagina, and she was going to give birth to him on the freeway outside of New York
Oh,
City.
I didn't hear that. I
Yeah,
didn't hear that part.
that
I am.
that that gets weird.
I wanted so badly in the mold. He dies. That's he lives his life, and that's it. And then all those other molds that you saw are also dead people.
Ah,
That's what I was convinced of, and I was like, I hope this happens because this is fucking hysterical. This boring, this bored guy with life has this exciting one night of his life, and then gets the moment where he's probably going to change it, and then he can't. He's just frozen in time, and it's like all these other people did the same thing. Maybe you don't know their stories. And I was like, this is great, and then he quickly gets out of it as he.
I believe they did consider that ending.
I To get back to the original point that I actually had to say, which I forgot, but I was tying these two together. Cuteness. After Hours is about 70,000 times more cute than my choice. Just to be abundantly clear in terms of being cute, La Haine is about not basic per se, but it's like simple. Here's the story. You can the directing is the way it is, but like if I were to give you the Holy Mountain and be like, that's cute, that would be a cute phraseology, if you will. But
You're still stuck on this text message where I called.
no,
uh,
I like to be abundantly clear on things that
yeah, I see that. I've
yeah,
felt it for 2 weeks now.
yeah, I'll go in. I'll go in. But anyway, I actually very much enjoyed this week's, and I think I'm, to be honest with you, I think I would much rather have a podcast that does this than does 4th of July blockbusters. Yeah, yeah. Like if we had to do that every week and we had to do The Rock and Con Air, and then do like Jaws, and like they're so simple films compared to these two, like really simple. Like it's
Yeah.
in your face. You don't have to decipher anything. There's no like ulterior motives. You could just watch it, eat popcorn. You could probably do any number of things while you're doing it. Both of these movies that we're discussing this week, you can't really do that too. Especially like after hours, you're like, what the fuck is going on here? And what, how did you get here? What? Like everywhere you go, it's just like, how is this happening? And then the referential points that they have throughout, like for example, anyway, there's one point that I want to mention later, but it was fun. It
No,
was a great fun.
I agree completely with you on this. This is this kind of week almost feels like a week where we, when we pick the films for each other to kind of do something that you've never watched or something like that. Like the Perfume and the Killer Joe episode. Like these two films are something that we can enjoy, watch, and discuss, and it's just not that typical, like you said,
These two movies are
popcorn.
way better than both Perfume and Killer Joe, which looking back, maybe not the best choice on both ends. Although I like Perfume more than Killer Joe, but yeah, these were fun, like both fun loving and not easy to watch for their own right. Honestly, easy in the sense
Yeah.
like there's a substantive amount going on in both movies.
These two movies both make you feel uncomfortable in different ways.
Yeah. Oh
Um,
God. Yeah. Yeah. Um, in very different ways. I mean, if who wants to go first? I don't even know. I love this chocolate, Icelandic chocolate. Never heard of it. Never thought they made chocolate. Didn't even know it grows there. Does it grow there? I don't think so. But like cocoa beans.
I've never heard of it either, but you're selling me on it right now. Are you sponsored by Icelandic chocolate? Is that the
I, I wish. It's the only treat I have, and I've already had three.
got to cut you off? That's it.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I'm just gonna continue eating this and spoil my dinner. But
All right, we can go into after hours first. I think it's a little bit lighter. We can end on a little heavier topic on uh,
sure. I
Haine.
mean, I don't care. Yeah.
Sound good?
Mm?
All right. This is After Hours. It's a 1985 film directed by Marty Scorsese. It's 97 minutes. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a 90%. Box office 4.5 million. Budget. The box office was 10.6. And just a little context here. This is a film that Martin Scorsese directed after King of Comedy, which was a financial disaster, pretty much.
Big disaster.
Big
Yeah.
disaster. And he wanted to make The Last Temptation. And it was set, ready to go. They had the costumes made. And then the religious right kind of came out and just flooded the studio saying, do not make this film. And they got cold feet and they said, sorry, Martin, we're not making this film. And
Isn't
he
that
was
so
devastated.
dumb? Isn't that so dumb? That like you gotta have a group of people and like it's just so dumb.
It's an angry
Makes me
mob,
hate.
man.
And,
Um,
boy, are we in it now?
yeah, so he kind of had to go back to ground zero, and he got this script. Originally, it was going to be directed by Tim Burton, who was pretty kind of unknown at the time. But once Martin Scorsese said like he'd like to do it, Tim Burton was like, "Yep, it's all yours. You can have it."
Yeah.
Um, and it really gave Martin Scorsese a chance to get back to his roots of like making a film with a low budget,
Hmm.
fast, on location, get it under, shot under 45 days. And it kind of brought him back to, the joy of filmmaking, which is pretty cool. But the plot of this movie. So, desperate to escape his mind numbing routine, uptown Manhattan office worker Paul Hackett ventures downtown for a hookup with the mystery woman, Rosanna Arquette. So begins the wildest night of his life as bizarre occurrences involving underground art punks, a distressed waitress, a crazed Mr. Softy truck driver, and a bagel and cream cheese paperweight pile up with anxiety inducing relentlessness and thwart his attempts to get home.
There's nothing
So,
you could say. There's nothing you could say as a synopsis other than actually watching the movie. Or if you were to, yeah, there's nothing you would say that could really encapsulate this movie. And I would say oftentimes, more often than not, if there's an inability to explain after watching a movie, I should say, an inability to explain not even the intimate side of it. Like try explaining Apocalypse Now. Guy goes crazy. Soldier gets tasked with finding him out and taking him out ultimately by going upriver. Like, okay, that's pretty simple, pretty standard, and there's some chaos along the way. It's like, oh, that's easy. It's complicated along the way, but like this is like good luck. Like good luck explaining it in the synopsis because that synopsis and any synopsis is never going to do this movie justice. It's like it's so out there, but in a good way. I felt in multiple occasions I was like, go deeper, Marty. You can do it. Just one more step. One more step. Like the moment of the rear window, like the Hitchcockian
yeah,
reference where the person's getting shot and he's just looking through the window
I'm
and he's
probably
like,
going to get blamed for this.
I'm probably gonna get blamed for this. I lost my shit. Like I paused it, rewound it. I watched it like 4 times, and I was like, "This is so hysterical." It was my favorite movie in the whole. I'm getting immediately to the point. That was my favorite moment in the entire film by far, and because also even by the end of it, because I'm curious, like what's going to happen with this. Nothing ever happened, and I was like, "Of course, this movie never even used this." It was just like this weird one-off moment.
Yeah.
It's like that's basically that movie to a T. There's so many iterations or instances of the skull, for example, and the tattoo
Uh
of
huh.
the combining is like there was never like a detailed explanation of most of this movie. It's just like spaghetti against a wall, and then we're gonna make a movie out of it,
Yeah. It's kind
which
of
I loved.
right. Not everything has to have this this deep meaning, and Martin Scorsese is playing with this kind of film literature where you do a close up of something and it's supposed to mean something, right?
Yeah,
Well, what if it doesn't mean anything? You know
doesn't
what I
mean
mean?
anything. Yeah,
Yeah, and so he was actually trying to capture Hitchcock kind of filmmaking, this style. He was kind of parodying it, and I thought he did a great job. Like this, like you said, this movie is it's not something that I can just like you said describe. Like there's this
it's hard.
tone to it and this feeling to it. Yeah, this guy, he's a yuppie. He's got a beige apartment. He's living a pretty boring life. Um, and he gets intoxicated by this girl. He wants to get, wants to have a night out, and he ventures to a part of town that he doesn't really go to.
Yeah,
You've lived in New York for quite a long time. Obviously, you didn't live in New York in the 80s, but
yeah.
Soho at the time, from what I read, was not the most desirable place.
There's not not back then, and Soho now is fantastic for shopping, but very different place back then. I mean, Times Square back then was oh my god, atrocious. But yeah, leaving your house with $20. Wait, another thing I didn't understand, even from an editing perspective, which it was like one of the first things I noticed was like I love the editing of the opening scene and speaking about like I don't know, I felt like editing a magazine, but it was so cool how it was like structured. Um, and then it just went to like normal editing and back. Everything was kind of sporadic, just like the dialogue, just like the everything just was like pieced together almost in like
Yeah,
a weird disjointed way that actually worked. But
there was more like cut shots in this film than master shots,
yeah,
meaning Like there would be a close up
Yeah,
of a doorbell or a close up of keys or something like
yeah.
that, which kind of gets you a little uh, disoriented.
In the first like few minutes when you're in his apartment and like you get that face shot when he's making the phone call. I don't know if this is this angle. It might be this angle, but it doesn't matter. But it was like that phone call shot, and I was like, that's a really good shot. I was like, man,
Yeah,
that's. I wanted to take a picture, but I didn't. I don't like pausing too much in the movies, but I really enjoy movies. I guess the better way to put this is like where it misses large chunks of like the background info, and you get dropped in. You just got to figure it out, and sometimes you
yeah.
don't figure it out. That's this movie. That's how I would say the synopsis is. Like, here's your story. You don't really understand anything to do with the story. There's no build up. There's no you don't. There's no let. There's nothing. You're just like dropped in the middle. Nothing is explained, and here you go. Good luck with it.
Somebody explained this really well in a review that I read, but it's basically Paul is in a rat maze and
Oh yeah,
he's just trying to figure out which way to go, and there's dead ends here, and he gets these keys here that he thinks is gonna, help him get to the next, part, ultimately trying to get home. But there's a roadblock and there's a doorman and there's, all of these obstacles in the way, and you're just lost with him.
yeah. I was I saw Cheech Marin because I didn't know this movie or who was in it. I saw him in the credits, the opening credits, and I was like, oh, you had me at Cheech. And then he's shown like just a few times,
Yeah, he's
and
just
his character is only used to when in relation to the dead bodies that I wanted. And I was like, this movie is such a mind fuck almost. Like, what's happening?
yeah, yeah.
It was fun.
Name Marcy, Rosanna Arquette, and she's like this kind of almost femme fatale but screwball comedy kind of mashed together. Um, and he's doing is trying to seduce her. They just met, but it's like one of those things where it's just the rules of the game. Like you're meeting this girl, sure, for a plaster of Paris, bagel and cream cheese paperweight. That's not the reason why you're really going down there.
But she seems crazy off the bat. Instantaneously crazy. If you know crazy, that's crazy. And you're
Yeah,
like, her comments, her replies, everything is nuts. And then he's like, and then you could tell that not the breaking the fourth wall, but the viewer is clearly like crazy because his character Paul is man, this bitch crazy. But I mean,
he's still trying to do it.
I'm a man. I'm a man, and maybe crazy is good for one night, 24 hours. And he was like, how crazy is this motherfucker? And then opens up her person and is like, how crazy is she? Like burns? She got burns, second-degree burns. Let's actually see what this medicine is for. Um, anytime I get those moments, I don't really feel awkward in movies, but anytime I get those intimate moments where like there's a potential for like the person to come back into the room, potential to open the door, potential like if somebody is looking into something that they shouldn't be, it makes me so awkward. But I don't normally get awkward in movies, but those moments for whatever it is, I definitely get awkward in. I'm
Yeah,
like, don't like look at it and go on. And then he couldn't fit it back in the bag. I was like, no. And then like he finally does fit it back in the bag, and it's all fine. And even that moment, I was like, this movie is going to be that. It's going to be your expectation, and then nope, doesn't happen, which
yeah,
I
it
like.
thwarts your expectation. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
great. It's
it's
great.
fun.
Um, and then he meets the waitress, the 1965 Beehive, Terry Garr, um, and she's an interesting character, um, but again, she's almost trying to seduce Paul, and Paul's not having it, um, because ultimately he just wants to get home, or use a telephone, but he gets out of there. He realizes that she's also kind of loony, um,
Yeah,
and then he meets Catherine O'Hara's character Gail, who uh, this is one of her first like film roles. This is before obviously Home Alone and things like that. Um, but she drives a Mr. Softy truck. She's really proud of that. She she also does
that
this thing
rolls
when
off
he
the tongue very nicely for you, but for me, I'm like, what is happening? Like, can we get some? Like, can we at least get some backstory on this? First of all, like my daughter had her first like Mr. Softy experience like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, And my wife and I are like looking at each other. We hear the music. She doesn't know what the music is, of course, and hears it and was like, "What is that music?" And I was like, I was looking at my wife. Is now the time to do this? And she's like, no. And I was like, my gut is all screaming, yes, yes,
Yes.
do this, yes, yes. And I was like, that's an ice cream truck. What? And then like doesn't understand or comprehend anything else that's about to happen. Runs outside and sees the truck. And there's another food truck because people are on the corner actually like having a party. And I was like, I'm just gonna put my sandals on, running sandals, mind you,
Okay.
or whatever we have, and we're gonna run together, a 4-year-old, to get to Mr. Softy, who didn't notice us. Anyway, about 10 minutes later, we caught up to Mr. Softy. There's a lot ins and outs of that, but the excitement is it's palpable for the first time. And now every single time she hears it in her head. She's like, "Do you hear that?" And we're like, "No." She's like, "Is it in my head?" And so she's understanding how like the playing of music in your head can exist, which is another weird concept for life, but very fun. But I wanted to ask you this direct question: like, what was your first Mr. Softy moment? Because I remember mine, and it really truly is one of the most joyful moments. I mean, I've seen it live recently, so it's more on the tip of my tongue. But for me, it's just so exciting hearing that music. It's the same music that hasn't changed. The trucks look the same. But do you remember your first time?
I don't know. I mean,
Oh,
I remember it coming down the street,
yeah,
many times during the summer and things like
yeah,
that, but I don't remember the first time. I was excited
yeah,
every single time,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I would pretty much always get like the drumstick chocolate cone kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was my go-to.
I literally can't hate on anyone that orders anything from Mr. Softy. If I've because there was a time recently, it wasn't been 2 weeks. It's been like a month ago when I was eating galore. That I ordered everything that they had, including like the prepackaged stuff like SpongeBob and everything. And it's all pretty good, man. Like
It's all pretty good.
it's all pretty good. The vanilla, the swirl, the chocolate, the rainbow sprinkles, the chocolate sprinkles, the crunch, the SpongeBob, everything. It's pretty good. But I will say this: my excitement was even more excited while seeing the Mr. Softy, and then I was like, "Wow, this takes it a different level of creep." Like a Mr. Soft, like you can full on go creep, but it doesn't go there luckily, so it doesn't ruin my idea of Mr. Softy. But there's no explanation of the Mr. Softy. Like, do you know how that got thrown in there?
No idea.
I thought it
No
was
clue.
again. I thought it was hilarious. Like, none of this makes sense to me. I'm just so confused. But I was like, I like
It's
confusion.
it's an anxiety dream too. Have you ever had a stress dream, like woken up from one and been like, "What the fuck was happening there?"
You mean like you forgot to do your homework at school? Like, what is a anxiety dream? Just like where you're anxious about anything?
No, like you're in a dream and you can't get out of a certain situation, or you're somewhere that you shouldn't be, and nothing is happening correct. It's like you wake up in almost like a cold sweat.
No, I learned at a very early age you can control your dreams. I could wake myself up, and so well, I guess technically speaking, if I ever am bored of dreams, I'll just be like, "This sucks," and then wake myself up. And but the worst part is when I wake myself up and then go back to sleep and you're back in the same goddamn dream, and
Yeah,
you're like, you wake yourself up a second time, but like waking yourself up a second time is like, you're affecting your sleep. You're going to be tired, and you're like, is it worth it, or just deal with the boredom? Um, I deal with the boredom normally the second time, but yeah, I can normally wake myself up,
that's
so
good.
I
Yeah,
don't get too
I
anxious.
sometimes get stuck, and I'm just basically Paul
Oh
in a
god,
stress dream, and it's not
rat
fun.
maze, man. No, not at all. But what's the deal with the editing and speeding up the taxi out of nowhere?
Uh,
It's like Beetlejuice.
yeah, I listened to a clip of Martin Scorsese talking about that, and he basically wanted to film it and edit it and stylize it like how it felt for him when he was in a speeding taxi going through New York. Basically, he wanted to create the visual of how it felt for him. And it kind
Okay.
of adds a little bit to like, you know, Paul going into hell. Basically, he's leaving
Yeah,
the comfort of his home, and he's speeding down a path and it's going to get kooky.
yeah,
And we get that sense, like the first sense of kookiness, I feel like in this film was when you see the host at the restaurant, and he asks for a pen, and he does this twirl
yeah.
and gives him that pen, and you're like, oh, okay, we're
Something's
we're gonna
off.
there's something off in
Yeah,
this film,
yeah.
and it just kind of keeps going down that rabbit hole, which I love. I mean,
I
it's
wish it went further. That's my main qualm of the movie. I just wish it went uh, deeper into the weirdness. I like the weirdness. It was
I like
fun,
the weirdness too. Um,
but I was confused at the edit, like the choice of speeding up the cab scene. I was
yeah.
confused.
Funny enough, I think another reason why, this is just my own thoughts, but so this script was developed by Joseph Minion. It was originally called One Night in Soho, um,
Hmm.
and he wrote it in his Columbia, and when he was a graduate student at Columbia in his film class. And later on, somebody listened to this guy Joe Frank, who is a monologuist, and literally the first 30 minutes of this film is this monologue by Joe Frank, with a guy meeting a girl, going downtown,
Yeah,
literally a plaster in Paris, bagel and cream cheese paperweight, like all of these like things.
yeah.
He basically, you know, copied, and there was a whole lawsuit and things like that. So I think that's why this movie doesn't get talked about as much, because it wasn't able to be promoted after the fact that was um, revealed.
Really? Even with Marty? I mean, the Holy Mountain got banned for like 30 years. It's pretty talk.
Did
Well,
it?
yeah, it's been talked about by just me, but um, I thought it was a vampire movie actually. 30 minutes in, for a variety of
Ah,
reasons, I was like, "This, there's vampires for sure. It's a vampire movie."
Joseph Minion, his next script was Vampire Kiss with Nicolas Cage. So
Maybe he was like going for the vampire route, and he's like, "Nah, let's go somewhere else with this.
yeah,
I'm
let's go somewhere
gonna use,
else.
I'm gonna use this for my second album. Take those songs. They can have the B sides." No, I was like, this is a vampire movie, right? Like that's where we're getting to, going uptown. Like it's all the references, the darkness, these chicks, just topless out of nowhere, artists. It seems like a vampire movie, right?
Yeah.
Right? I don't know. That's what I thought.
Tagline time. Do you want to hear some taglines?
I would love a tagline or two.
All right, there's four taglines for this movie. One of them is made up by me. You won't know which one.
I like this game. Hey, can we call this something? Starts with,
Tagline
can we
time?
get
I don't know.
can we
What
get
do you think?
tagline time? Well, yeah, the turf of the tagline. All right, let's do it.
What if that date you thought you never wait? Sorry. What if that date you thought would never end didn't? What is the very worst night you ever had? Nothing good happens after midnight. When it's after midnight in New York City, you don't have to look for love, laughter, or trouble. They'll all find you.
Um,
All
what
good taglines.
taglines? Really?
That could have been
Um,
better.
the nothing good happens after midnight. You made up.
Ding. You're right. You got it.
Yeah,
I don't know how.
it's pretty easy. Taglines are so terrible though. They're all bad, right? I mean, they're like, I wish we wrote taglines. We should start writing taglines. I think.
We should start a company that just solicits taglines to movies that are about to come out.
No, we
We're
should
not a
do
marketing team. We don't do anything else. We specialize in
taglines.
taglines. That's it.
We should do taglines for movies, taglines for like you're pitching a new product. We're doing tagline. You can do taglines for anything, and then people are going to say, "Don't you want to be marketers?" No, 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 no. We don't want to market it. We just want to do taglines. You can use it
We're
as
just doing
you see fit.
taglines.
Just the taglines. I mean, nobody would use us. Do you like The Wizard of Oz?
I love The Wizard of Oz. Yeah. It's one of my favorite classic movies.
Mm, me too. One of my
Why do
favorites.
you ask?
Because there was like iterations of. not iterations, instances of this feels like the Wizard of Oz. Just like
It does. It's Alice going down the rabbit hole, Dorothy going down the yellow brick road, the characters that they meet, the people.
yeah, it's like a more Alice. No, Dorothy took acid, like a small dose of mushrooms, and was
Just
like,
tiny one.
"Here we go." And why didn't he just walk home? Do you think?
Yeah, I looked that up. I mean, you know New York better than I do, but it would have taken about an hour and 47-minute walk if he, hit all the lights and everything like that,
I've done
from
that.
where he was.
Yeah, I've done
But
that.
it was raining pretty hard, middle of the night.
Not great rain, by the way.
I was going to ask you about that. That was one of my questions.
Number 9, fake rain.
But
Wasn't
I
fake rain.
love the scene near the beginning when he's trying to get out of Dodge, and he goes down to the subway, tries to pay his fare, and the subway guy's like, prices went up. It's $1.50.
When they
Well,
go
come
up,
on, man. I have like 97 cents. When did they go up? At midnight,
yeah,
just now. It's like, come on, man. And he's like, I don't want to I could lose my job. He's like, how would anybody know?
yeah.
I could go to a party and get drunk and tell somebody. Like, what?
Like that's your answer. By the way, Steven, the answer is he has a boring life. Of course, he wants to see where this goes. This is the most exciting moment he's ever had, probably, or maybe like one of the weirder moments. So he has a boring life, a bland job. At the very beginning, the opening scene of this, and the ending, where he's back at his job. He has
He's
a
a word
bland life,
processor.
literally, and he's bored as all hell. So what's not going to be boring? Well, this night it appears that's why he doesn't want to go home, because there are multiple sections where it's like, even I was like, okay, like anything that happens now is your fault. Like anything including your own death, whatever happens going forward, you have made the decision actively to be like, okay, I'm good with like playing it
Well,
forward with my death.
there's a point where he's pot committed, where he can't just leave because he gave his keys to John Hurd, the bartender, for an exchange. So at that point, you have to play the game. You have to go and see where this leads, because he's not going home. There's no way. Um,
And what does
which I
happen?
think. Oh man. He goes to Club Berlin, and I like the fact that you get another kind of Hitchcock reference here, where Martin Scorsese is on camera. He has a little tiny cameo. Did you
Yeah.
see him there?
No.
Is the light operator in the
No.
club?
No.
Yeah, he was there right when Paul was about to get a mohawk. Have you ever had a mohawk?
I have. Yeah. Have you?
You know I have. Yeah,
I have a picture of it that you have. I've just
I have
recently
it now.
sent you.
Yeah,
Can you put it up?
yeah. I'll post it on this.
Because you didn't edit the last one in our hair. I think you got it late
That's
though.
true. Yeah, I was. This time I will, because you guys will see this beautiful mohawk. Uh, but
I
I'm
think
not
you're
going to show you.
flexing in the picture as well.
That's just my natural pose, Jonathan. Come on.
That's fair. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not going to post the photo of my shaved head completely. It's an embarrassment.
Yeah, but your normal head is an embarrassment. I like the smug. Things taste better from it.
Can you get a close up of the mug on the camera for me?
Yeah, most certainly can.
That's the new logo too. Look at that.
Mm, catch us at Scene Week.
Came out great.
Yeah, our
Proud of that.
glasses were supposed to match, but you're not wearing yours right now.
Got the whole contacts in.
So anyway, how does this end? He gets paper mached, and then what? What happens next?
He gets paper mache. Cheech and Chong come in and see the paper mache. Think it's the one that they were supposed to get at the other apartment. And take him.
Yeah.
He's trapped inside this plaster of Paris paper mache. Um,
As the mob tries to attack him and kill him.
Yeah, because
What?
there's a string of burglaries going around the neighborhood of Soho. So they have a kind of like a neighborhood watch, a vigilante group that are trying to snuff out who these thieves are. Um, Paul's, like I said, just trying to get home before he meets June. He solicits a guy on the street. The guy thinks it might be a hookup. But that's where we get Paul describing his night to him. One of the greatest, like, just he's just breaking down.
Yeah.
And what's funny is he he was told by Martin Scorsese, like, I don't want you to have sex, and I want you to sleep as little as possible during the shooting of this film. And I want to see that. That's what he told. That was some of his direction. Um, and then another funny kind of instance to get, Paul's reaction and just facial expression was right before he enters the Club Berlin, but when it's vacant, when it's empty, and he meets June. Right
Yeah.
before right before that happened, he had Griffin Dunn go to a neighboring bar, buy a round for everybody at the bar, and leave without paying. And then they right away filmed that scene because they wanted to get that kind of like that expression on his face that
Yeah.
he got
Yeah.
while the mob was chasing him.
Fascinating turn of events.
So he
I
ends
bet.
up in that paper mache and speeding down uh, downtown Manhattan. Basically, gets reborn because he falls out of the back of the van. The paper
Yes.
mache breaks,
Yes.
and he is at the gates of not heaven but his work. And he shakes and
Yeah.
dusts himself off and goes right back up there and starts typing.
So was it all a dream? Do you think?
It's a good question. It feels like it could be all a dream.
Yeah. It seems like one of those anxiety. What'd you call it?
Anxiety dream, stress dream, yeah.
Yeah. It feels like that. If you had something like this as a dream, I would be ecstatic. I'd be like, this is the if this were a dream, they'd be like, what just happened? But this is pretty hilarious.
Yeah, it's those dreams are are a trip, man. Just like this movie is a trip. Imagine ending up back not at your apartment, back at work. The safety of work for him.
If you started off at work and you ended at work, it would be a terrible dream. But what happened in between remains to be seen.
I like that. And with that, should we move on to the
Yeah,
Francais
Lahane.
film?
I think I will, you know, go back to just my original comments. I think my I think this movie will grow on me. I actually know it will, because to be honest with you, first 10 minutes I was fairly bored. 15 minutes, like I didn't like it too much, and then but that's often the case with movies I end up like really enjoying, unless they're just like off the bat like hook, line, and sinker, like a Memento or something, where it's just like immediately evident what's happening, but then like you're trying to pick apart what's happening. But it's a different feel with the weird movies. It takes a while. There's a build up to it. Um, so I think I'll like this more the more I watch it. Just for I think there's a lot of details I'm missing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
with that being said, but yeah, in terms of scaling of things, this has got to be up there with the two collective movies. It's maybe in the both of them in the top 100. Haine is definitely in the top 100 for me. Um, I don't know where I would rank this because I haven't. I'm trying. I'm regrettably doing what I tell you not to do, but I'm doing it in a way that isn't application to this. Yeah, it'll be in the top 100 if I had to guess. Lahane, I have it 79, but I'll probably move that up ultimately. I have to go through my top 100 list, but very fun and very seldom you get two movies in 1 week that would be of this nature. You know, Apocalypse Now and um, Full
Full
Metal
Metal
Jacket
Jacket.
would
Yeah.
be would probably be here. But anyway, enough about this. Going into Yeah, Full Metal Jacket is 88, and Apocalypse Now is my top 25. So anyway, La Haine, the hate. It reminds me of Apocalypse Now to some extent, in the darkness. But it's a French movie. It's 98 minutes, one more minute than yours. I don't know how to say their names. The director, how do you say? Mathieu Kassovitz? How do you say his name? You'll
Yeah,
do some.
Mathieu Kassovitz.
There you go.
Mathieu.
1995, another not rated movie. Genre is drama, but I'm going to add comedy because to me, I laughed hysterically all throughout this. And I've seen it many times, many times. And I highly recommend this movie to anyone. And that's why I'm shocked that you haven't seen it. 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, 3 million budget, 15 million box office. That being said, there are some euros there that I'm translating into. I don't know the euros back in 95, but nonetheless. The background is this. When a young Arab is arrested and beaten unconscious by police, a riot erupts in the notoriously violent suburbs outside of Paris. Three of the victims' peers, Vince, whose real name is Vincent Cassel, Saeed, his real name is Saeed, and you get the point of this. They're all named the same as their names. Wander aimlessly about their home turf in the aftermath of the violence as they try to come to grips with their outrage over the brutal incident. After one of the men finds a police officer's discarded weapon, their night seems poised to take a bleak turn. And I will add, I guess, my own little flair or synopsis to it. And a lot of inundation. This really is like a coming of age story for a person that's already come of age to some extent, and that is continuing to come of age. Because I would say, generally speaking, you see the coming of age stories of like the boyhood, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you're maturing, but these are still children with any by anyone's stretch of any imagination, in my view. Uh, but quantifiably are probably old enough to do and have jobs and gamble and do whatever they so choose, but they're children emotionally, and they're still trying to deal with whatever it is that life throws at them. And some people deal with things in different ways. Some people, for example, like Vincent, or Vince, as he's called, he is very upset about the riots. But they all are excited and outraged, but excited also be like, we get to live life kind of on the edge. Like there's the boundaries have actually shifted here. Whereas like now, we hated the police before, we're from the projects, but now we actually outwardly get to hate the police, and we have a gun in our possession. And the coming of age story is like we're tough. Whereas Hubert, as you'll quickly learn in the movie, is more of the reasoned, already came of age, if you will, once out of the projects and is just really wanting to get out. And it's this triplicate of scenarios with Saeed in the middle between Vincent and Hubert, and just the three of them in this 24-hour period. And it's interesting in how well they're able to capture that three-party relationship where there's always something trying to chip at it, but they always end up being together. And I would imagine this is one of those relationships that probably just dissolves pretty quickly here on after. But I could see it ultimately taking a turn for the better, where Hubert actually convinces people. Well, the ending is going to absolve
Yeah.
all of
Wow, that
this.
ending.
Which, to be fair, again, I don't know. Something might be wrong with me. I laughed not when it happened, but when you think about the totality of everything that's happened, it's like it's um it's dramatic, but it's like to me it's funny. It's a movie, not laughing at the actual death. But I love this movie very, very passionately. It's one of my favorite foreign films. It's one of my favorite movies, and outside of Clerks, it might be my favorite black and white. I'd have to really quantify black and white films. The Kid is also one of my favorite from Charlie Chaplin, but I'd have to really think about it. But love it. How did you feel about your first watch? I know I'm just like I'm baiting you with that. I don't care if you contradict it, but how did you feel?
So like I said, I knew about this movie, but I didn't know this movie.
Yeah,
And from the outset, just watching it and seeing these characters develop and kind of getting an understanding of who they are and where they're from and what's going on and what motivates them.
yeah,
Um, it was incredible to see, especially like I see how this film is kind of broken in two halves, where the first part we see them living in the projects and kind of like
yeah,
the rough side of outside of Paris, kind of a concrete jungle, very sparse. and then they go into the city and they have to deal with, you know, other things that come up, but they're still a part of that that life that's completely different than the what we typically see in movies about Paris. You know, movies about Paris are usually very romantic, prestige, you know, high art, all of those things, whimsical even. But this one's gritty, and this one is very, 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 very true to what was going on then. And it's kind of sad because it's still going on today, in
Yeah,
other
literally
parts of the
today.
world as
No,
well.
in
And
in France today.
in France today, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
literally riots.
so it's they just had their elections too, which is uh, uh, big deal. But anyways, yeah, it's sad that these things are still going on in Paris or, you know, in our backyard. And this was in 1995. Um, so how much have we progressed? I mean,
But we haven't, and we won't. We'll continue doing that same stuff that we always do. I mean, how are we gonna come on? Unless the chips in our brain changes us, but no, we're always gonna be the same. Have you seen the three body problem?
no, it's on Netflix, but I haven't watched it yet.
It's okay. I read the book, so I'm watching the show. It's okay. It's getting better as the season is ending, but um, yeah, we're not going to change generally. This is like to me a what City of God is to Brazilian cinema to French cinema, but with less of violence. The favelas in
Mhm.
Brazil. That's what it feels like to me.
It's funny, you recommended City of God to me way back in the day,
Yeah,
and I watched that, and this it's funny that you mentioned that because this movie reminded me of that so much.
yeah. I don't know, not to go with numbers, but I think City of God beats this out. But um, it just reminded me of that feeling. But I loved, and it's not just the black and white aspect to it, but I just love the interspersing of because like first of all it took a while for any music really to be played in terms of like having audio or a score, and you know most of it was like is derived actually from the music playing, such as the DJ in the middle of the projects like playing music out, but the music was, you know, low key. It was good though. But I remember um, just the interspersing of funny stories, like the little kid, not unnamed kid, and they're on the three little circular concrete blocks right outside of, I don't even know what to call it, to be honest with you. I mean, and he's telling the story about candid camera,
Yeah,
and I don't know why. I still don't. And I maybe I can write like a paper about this, like in college, of why. And it's probably the visual side that I really enjoyed of like the zooming in and then the pausing, and then like the rocks are being thrown at his back, and then he would. I love when you have two or three people that are interacting with each other, and there's multiple things going on, and like it's able to be pulled off like well. And so he's getting rocks thrown at him while he's talking about candid camera. So it's like interrupting his like attention span, whereas like Vince is just like he looks down and out, looking down at the ground. He's listening to the story. The story has no end, literally, and he gets to the end, and he's just like, and they're like, okay. And then what? Who is the famous person? Like, I don't even know.
I
And
don't
it's like,
know.
what just happened? Like, what? Where were you going? And I was like, that's the beginning of a comedian or the beginning of a good storyteller. Though, if you're able to capture the attention of the people around you, that's step one. And the coming of age of like you get people's attention, even if you're able to do it in enunciating a particular way, but your subject matter is just garbage. That's your first step to telling a good story. But I just love how it was so uneventful. There was nothing said except the candid camera. It's being the rocks thrown at him. Vince is like depressed, but the scene invoked or evoked a dismal feeling in me of the story means nothing, and it almost was like a collection of the throwing of rocks. Their lives to them felt like it meant nothing. And I know I'm seeing
Yeah,
far into it, but it was like it just felt so sad.
you're
Felt so
absolutely
sad.
right. And it's funny that you mentioned the scene because I have been thinking about that scene a lot lately too because of the banality of it and the
Yeah,
almost the
yeah,
like does this mean something or is it supposed to mean nothing?
yeah.
Um, but I think it does mean something, and the fact that it was really jarring to me because how the camera. There's a lot of one shot takes in this film, but this
Yeah.
camera kind of just zooms in on their conversation,
So good.
and then once that story is over, that camera just flips, and it's a very bold cut, and you see them from the other side, the other perspective of this vast openness in the projects. Um, and I think that's when the movie turns and says, "This movie is not going to be about nothing. There's going to be a point to the story, and now you need to watch." And that was really jarring to me how he cut that and how he framed that and how he filmed that. It was amazing.
There were That's cool. There was like six or seven times where I took pictures of moments like that because I thought if I ever direct a movie, I want to know how this was done. Um, Maybe it's simple or whatever, but I was like the way some of these I don't know if it's editing or what, but some of the camera angles. For example, the one that immediately comes to mind when you see Hubert for the first time, who's punching a bag, and they go to a close up of Saeed and Vince talking, and like eventually smoking weed, and there's a poster on the wall. It took, Hubert's boxing or whatever, and I don't know, he's probably 30, 40 feet away on a bag, and then you don't hear the bag, but you just hear them talking, and then he just out of nowhere they pan away from the poster, and then to the right is Hubert like grabbing the joint or a cigarette for the first time. And I was like, how the hell did he get there? But I was like, the way it
Yeah.
was actually done was so impeccable. Like I mean, he was just walking, but you didn't hear the walk, and you didn't expect it, or at least I didn't expect it. And I was like, that shot was terrific. There was another shot where I don't know how they do this either. I don't know the production of movies very well, but there was another shot where there was a guardrail with Saeed and Vin. This one I took a picture of, and it like I don't know if it was going forward or back, but like the background was doing all sorts of weird stuff. Like it
Was
was
it
just
with
like,
when they first got to Paris and they were overlooking,
yeah,
that.
that's
Yeah,
right.
that's the
How do you
dolly
do that,
zoom.
dude?
You have to
That
have.
is crazy fun.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
probably sound the dumbest human being ever talking about movies right now, but like that those shots, like I want to actually look up shots of like a top 25 dolly zoom shots. Like they look so cool.
It's a great technique, but it has to be done not in just a stylistic way, but it has to serve the story. And I think it serves the story so much here because it's their our first viewing of them in Paris in this big city.
Yeah,
And what that does is it keeps them in focus, zooms out, and then blurs the rest of the city, and it just
yeah,
shows you
yeah.
that they don't belong there. It,
They don't at all.
it's
Yeah,
and they're not welcome, um, in
which
any
we
way.
find out
Like,
going into the art exhibit, and
yes,
immediately trying to hit on girls, for which that doesn't work, and they ultimately get kicked out. And that's kind of like the turning point for Hubert, who has been like the good guy for the majority of the film. Of like, we have this gun, we're not going to be using it.
he's the
We're not
rational head in the film.
completely rational, and he keeps telling his mom that he's gonna get out. He wants to get out of the projects. I have to get out of the projects. I have to get out. And Rupert tells his mom. And my favorite quote of the whole movie basically is he's telling his mom, "I have to get out. I have to get out of the projects." And he's like squinting, and then he goes, um, repeats it, and she goes, "Well, if you see a store along the way, pick up some lettuce." I was like,
Yeah, it's like you're not getting out.
Hubert,
Like,
your mom
you're
just
coming back
screwed
home.
you.
I mean, they're all trapped there as a just a matter of circumstance and the system that's pinning them down. You have Hubert, who's the black man, Saeed, who's Arab, and Vince, who is Jewish.
Yeah,
Um, and it's these three, like this unlikely kind of grouping, but they're brothers in a way.
for
Um,
sure,
and they argue like brothers too,
for
which is some of the
sure.
best parts.
Yeah, it's
um,
it's it's funny because, like, while Vincent is the overly aggressive individual for which you're trying to root for to some extent, like Hubert, at least for me, I was like, Hubert's got his head on his shoulders. He's trying to talk people down. Saeed is more of like, kind of
He's the
can go both
middleman.
ways. Yeah, like he just can
Yeah.
do both things. Eventually, at the end, he's like, yeah, whatever. Like, I'm going with Hubert. Like, I'm not going to kill a cop because Abdel died. And did you think that the cop was ultimately going to get killed throughout the movie?
It's that tense kind of feeling, because that opening introduction to Vince, we get a nice Martin Scorsese reference here with the taxi driver scene, and
Yeah,
he's looking in the mirror, pointing his fake gun, and trying to be that Robert De Niro character. And that's all he is. He's trying to be a character that he's not.
yeah, for
And
sure.
that kind of opened me up to being like, he's just a kid. He doesn't know what he's got himself into. He's carrying around this gun thinking he's got this big dick, but is he capable of killing a cop? He says he is, and he says that if his friend dies in cop custody, I'm going to take one out.
I think
But no,
there's
I
a
didn't
part.
think.
I think there's a part of each of the three characters, the main characters, that are that person. And I don't know if it was fashioned after these three human beings in general or their backgrounds. And their names are identical to the characters, or maybe they're just absolutely terrific actors. But I just feel like there is a piece in there of each of these humans, these creatures that these characters they've created. Which I find often in, like, like Clerks, Kevin Smith, like these characters that come to life, like you can see like that, like there's a body there that was trying to get out in some way, shape, or form. And speaking of that mirror shot, that's actually not a mirror shot. That's actually a body double. That
Yeah, I was wondering when I was watching, it's like, how the hell
yeah,
did he get this shot? And
yeah,
then I had to figure it out, and I looked up a video, and it kind of explained it to me. It's like, that's brilliant. Like, yeah, get a
yeah.
body double. There's no mirror. You're just filming Vince, and it just zooms in like that, and it's just wow.
But what a another thing. I'm just trying to take notes of like these movies that we watch. And I guess my question for the holdovers, was that a dolly shot or was that just a zoom out section of like the front of the school?
Oh, that was a
It's just zooming out.
that's called a oh gosh, when it's a smash zoom or
Yeah.
smash fade out. It's basically just
But there's no
you take
dolly there.
the there's no dolly. You just your camera's all the way back. You're zoomed in,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you just rip it, and it just yeah.
Yeah. Still a cool shot. One of my favorites of the holdovers, a movie I didn't really like too much. But I I thought the opening actual scene of like the riot and the, which I don't even know if that was like real footage of
It
what
was, yeah.
Yeah, I
It was
mean,
all
I was
that
like,
was all real footage.
this seems long, lengthy, and pretty real. I don't know. Do you know why they shot this in black and white? I didn't look it up. To be fair, I've had an astronomical amount of things to do this week, for which I guess you have too. To be fair,
Yeah.
so I haven't. I
From what
didn't.
I understand, this film was actually shot in color, um, and the director chose, after watching it, chose to put it in black and white because it felt like that's how the world sees these three characters, and
Hmm.
basically, I but it's actually one of the most beautifully shot movies I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I like the directing of it, and I like the editing combined. And I would say that for both movies. Yeah, but um, another quote I'm thinking of, and it's why aren't you in school? It burned down. and then like really soon after that, well, if everyone ran away from an argument, there'd be a stampede.
Yes, I remember that. That was good. This is a very funny movie,
I think it's hilarious.
and these just comical, like, little asides that they give, even the scene with the old man in the bathroom. Um, I had to
Oh,
watch that twice, 'cause it was so good. Um, and just trying to find meaning in what he's telling these three young kids with his life experience and the things that he's seen, and telling him this funny but also very sad story, about life and embarrassment and what happens when, you know, you fail to pull up your pants or they keep falling down. Um,
Yeah.
there's so much meaning in that, but I love that it's not outright said and it's
Yeah.
not outright told you. It's you as the viewer get to interpret it whatever way you want.
Do you know why I like that the most? I mean, it's pretty, you can extrapolate why, but why that scene I like that the most, because in that moment, and it keeps getting repeated, like, why did he tell us that? Like, Saeed keeps repeating, why did he tell us that? Like, so it's this ember moment for different reasons, this brain worm that got into his head of like, I don't know what that means, but I know that means something. And it's like this coming of age of, there are things that older, I run with this 27-year-old, he might be watching, old Herbert. He has some fantastic music, by the way, but he very mature individual. But like, he I said some stuff to him like over this past weekend while we were running, and I'm like, I wonder if I was 27 and a 43-year-old that I was running with, like Ken Rideout, for example, I used to run with. Well, he's like 10 years older than me. If he had said some stuff back in the day that I was just like, okay, yeah, but like, there are these nuggets I think that people give to you that you may just overlook. And you may actually have those moments where you're just like, why did he tell me that? And you forget about them and you don't ponder enough. But they're important moments that you could probably look back on and think that was significant. And maybe you don't have the firepower to make the change in your life, or the firepower of the ideas or thoughts or even moments of your life to even put the pieces together. But if you write it down and maybe in the future you go back to it and you're like, I see what they were trying to actually tell me. I now have the life or life stories to put these things together. But I like that. He was like, why did he tell us that? I love the brainworms that you just go down the rabbit hole, be like, that is very wise, provided me some wisdom, of, first of all, a very little person taking a shit in the stall, listening to their entire conversation, and he basically encapsulates it with this one story and exits. He takes a shit on them, metaphorically, but in a good way. And it's, if I were to rank scenes, it would probably be a one or two scene of the movie. It was great. I loved it, but I like the extension of the dialogue in movies when you get that. And generally speaking, I'm gonna like it more than like blockbusters, I guess, to some extent. Which is,
Yeah, because I mean, there's again ideas behind it
yeah,
rather than just an explosion. It's an explosion in your mind, rather than visually, which is
we are Seen Weekly, and welcome to our world.
um, what did you think about the all the kind of like the mirrors in this film, the shots with like in that bathroom? There was some great mirror shots.
I have too many pictures, so I have a very good camera for which I take a substantive amount of pictures, and I am infected by the idea that I'm going to take a perfect mirror shot. I don't know how many I have, probably over 1,000 pictures of reflections. I had a website called Salt Waterfalls at one point where I literally had one of the 5 sections was, um, I can't remember, I named it something cheesy, but it was like reflective moments or something like that. But it it was either mirror shots or puddles that you could see things in, or glass, or whatever it might be. But I actually have one picture that I have printed in my house that's pretty sublime, to be fair. It's on the streets of New York, 53rd and 6th Ave, or 7th Ave, 53rd and 7th, I think. And it's of the Duck Dynasty guy, but it doesn't look like him. And I've been infatuated with mirror shots, and I've been infatuated with photography that has reflective moments because of, just as you might imagine, like the nature of it. Like, it's a deeper meaning just inherently. So I loved it. To be frank, and I think I'll always love it because it's a different angle also of a person's face. Like the way we see people also is different. Like what are we like backwards and upside down by our eyes? Like the way we
Yeah.
actually perceive life. That's why we look at like that's why the camera and being played back to us looks different. But people in mirrors also look different. I don't know if you've seen yourself looking at a image of yourself in the mirror, but like or something along those lines. Like your face looks different. Um, so I appreciate different looks on things. In short,
Yeah.
what about you?
The No, I'm the same way. I like it when it's again, when it's not done gratuitously to just add style to the film, but if there is some kind of meaning behind it to elevate the story or tell the story. And I think this film does it. I mean, this is one of the, like I said, one of the most beautifully shot films. The way that he moves the camera, the depth of field that he uses with the three actors, and how you kind of create that depth of field with them, um, it's just incredible.
I feel like you would have been a little like Vince in his dig, like if you grew up in that environment. But I bet you had a Nike jacket like Vince. I would be like willing to bet my life you did.
I had a friend that lived down the street from me in Hawaii. His name was Clifford, and his mom was a hairdresser.
Yeah.
And one day, I was hanging out with him playing outside, and I saw the back of his head, and he had his mom shave the Nike symbol on the back of his head, and I thought, what the dumbest fucking thing that is. I
First of
thought it
all,
was so dumb.
I love. First of all, thank you for opening up about your life. I very much appreciate these stories because I myself went to the barber and I wanted to get that in my head. And so, but the guy looks at me. My mom drops me off at the barber and was like, I'll be back. T2. And like, thank God, thank all of the gods that the guy was like, I've never done that before. And I was like, no, 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 no. They're like, just, the Nike. I don't even think I
The
had Nike
swoosh.
shoes. Can you do this? I mean, first of all, knowing how a hair trimmer works, it's like it would have been the easiest thing on earth to do for him. But luckily, he said no, probably because my mom wasn't there. But yeah, I would have been that dumb person. But I was pretty dumb as a kid. I thought I would have been super cool. But yeah, why did that become a thing? And then the eyebrows, right? I mean, that's still a thing, right? Phil
Yeah, I think it's
Foden,
still a
for
thing.
example, he's got the eyebrow. But I would have been that dumb person too. But to go back to your original point of like the directing, to me, I like movies like I like my photography and almost directly an extension of it. But like an extension of it where like if you have photography or kind of like Chinatown, where it's like it's so well shot, in my opinion, which was a mirror, for example,
Mhm.
the side mirror. I think I paused it and I sent to you. I like my movies like photography, but an extension of it. Like I like to be away from landscapes. I don't like photography landscape. I shouldn't say that. I don't like them as much. I like people. When I take pictures, like I all of my pictures that I like and I think are good are all people because I want to capture something that I think is substantive, whereas a landscape is could be talking to you, I guess. Maybe, but I would probably want to find a face in a cloud or a landscape and then talk about it. But I like to deal with, blockbusters and explosions aren't really doing it for me. I've realized and very quickly, but I like to deal with humans grappling with life's issues, and I like movies that deal with humans grappling with life's issues and dialogue, which I think this is fantastic dialogue with the three of them is just sublime when it's in a particular setting that allows it to be. Again, I know you didn't like Clerks as much, but like Clerks to me is some of the best dialogue I've ever heard. And this, I didn't grow up in the projects, but I grew up next to projects, and like, or not, I shouldn't even say that, but I had a lot of friends who I hung out in the projects with. Um, and I guess if you're growing up in Florida, you're always next to projects to some extent. Um, but it seemed very realistic. I grew up fairly poor myself, but like not didn't seem as poor as this. Seemed like they captured it well, but I'm an ignorant.
They
Who knows?
yeah,
Yeah.
they had the three actors, the director had the three actors go and live in the projects for a
Oh wow,
couple months, I believe,
wow.
um, and spend the day to day and meet these people, but also to gain the trust of the neighborhood because he was like, "I'm gonna bring a film crew in here and film this." And the riots were still going on at this time. Like it wasn't
Yeah, yeah,
it hadn't stopped. Um, and so it definitely helped the three main actors get into that headspace and understand at least what these people lived like and what they thought and what they did and like I said, what their motivations were. Um,
You know what's
and
funny? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, no, tell me what's funny.
The cops. The cops are just like this. The parody version of cops are teaching each other how to interrogate how to interrogate captive audience, if you will.
That
And
was a
weird.
that scene made me feel icky.
Yeah. So they're like
It was
choking out the two of them. Vincent got away, was able to run. Um, but it was being explained on how best to get, you know, information out of somebody. But it wasn't like in a overly aggressive. I mean, it was overly aggressive, but it wasn't like pulling out fingernails per se.
no, but it was unnecessary. These cops didn't need to torture. The whole reason of the torture was to teach a newer cop, hey, this is how you do it, and the best way to show you instead of using a an artificial, plastic dummy. It's like we'll get these two guys and just fuck them up.
But it's funny because they're pausing to be like, okay, you can't go too far though. And there's like, wait, the guys are still there. They're what? And the guy's just like not. He's like feeling icky. But I don't know. I just found that hilarious. Like every time there was a cop on the scene, it was just like, including the last shot, which was sad. But in the totality of the movie, it's like maybe he should have taken his own shot before that happened. You would be better off. But um, it just I don't know. I found it funny. It was funny immediately, and then they took it pretty far where people are starting to get choked out. But that wasn't so funny. And then another funny scene was like when they're trying to steal a car. And the homeless man is telling him how to do it, or like trying to assist. He could drive. He's the only one that could drive. But I laughed so hysterically when they found out how to hotwire the car, which they didn't know how to do. And then collectively, they were able to hotwire the car, and then they realized nobody can drive. And they're like, "Wait, didn't you drive a Mercedes when you were in Germany?" I was like, "It's a different story."
He was
And I
all
was like,
talk. He never did.
"Who is the dumbest criminal of this car right now?" And then they start getting chased by the police yet again. Um, but the whole backstory with the homeless man, like being like, "There's a cop over there," and then saving them ultimately. Again, I think of it as a comedy, drama, but comedy. It's hilarious.
Yeah, even the scene where they go into the drug dealer's apartment. Asterix is his
Yeah,
name, and he's a loony guy. Um, and then we get to see that scene of Russian roulette. Like I was stressed out about that one.
I
I
was
was like,
very stressed about that. Yeah,
what the
God,
what is this guy doing? Because he's clearly
he's
high on
coked up.
something.
He's coked
Y-
up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and
mm.
he plays this game with the gun because the guns get drawn right, and this the gun throughout the film, it's like its own character, kind of just
Yeah,
waiting in place. Like, when is it going to be used? When is this gun going to be used? And there's an opportunity to use it on the skinhead, um,
yeah.
and that's
And
when
even before then, like when Saeed was dissing the guy from the roof, right? And he was like talking shit on the people that were on the ground. And then when he actually gets to the ground, they're wrapping around the corner and they didn't want to be with Vincent, or Vincent didn't want to be with them collectively. And the two of them, Hubert and Saeed, are shit out of luck. I'm like, oh, you're that man was talking shit about me, huh? And there's like six other dudes. Um, and here comes Vincent to save the day. And you knew it was going to happen. I mean, it was pretty clear. He's got the gun. He can come around the corner, mend the fences, that, if you will, and points it. And I thought maybe somebody was going to get shot there. That was the first time I watched it. I was like, somebody's going to get shot. This is the moment that somebody does get shot, right? Because like you're proving yourself finally to Hubert, who you've been and everyone else, but like you've been talking shit about using this gun against the cop, but now you actually get to use it in terms of retribution, if you will, and saving your friends. So you get to do a couple of things at once. But of course, it doesn't get used. But it did have a life of its own. Like when is this going to get used, and why? It became a very big talking point throughout. Have you ever dissed somebody from a roof? By the way, it just seems like a bad protocol. My
I don't
friend,
think that's not kind of like in my DNA.
I don't diss people, but I did have we have a drunk friend. He's not always drunk, but I did have a drunk friend, and you have a drunk friend, old Mikey, who dissed somebody from a roof as well, and was just just drunk in college talking shit about these people, and they came up to his room and beat the crap out of him. Um, so anytime I've ever seen a situation like this, I'm like, no, if somebody's on the ground, I'm gonna let them be on the ground. You think you're high and mighty up in a tall tower? Stay there in that tower in your mind, as well as keep those thoughts in. Whatever you're thinking, don't say them.
A height's not always an advantage if there's stairs. So it's just
That should
it's,
be a quote.
um, but I do appreciate the scene when he is about to unload the gun on the skinhead. They bring him back. They corner him, and Hubert is there. Just do it, man.
Do it.
Like
Here's your
there
moment.
there
Time to
there's some
shine.
good cops. There's some bad cops, but there's no good skinheads. They're all bad.
Which is a very valid point.
That's true.
A very
I
valid
agree. I
point.
agree. I
And
agree
one in
with
which
that.
I was like, he's going to shoot him. He's going to shoot him, right? Right? What'd you think?
I thought he was. Um, I thought this was the time the movie needed some kind of release,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
and it felt like that was the moment that it was going to happen. But actually, the release was finding out that Vince is not capable of that.
yeah. That was the
He's
release,
not capable of killing anybody.
which we knew all
Um,
along.
yeah, he can talk the
You
talk.
know, he's a tough guy, and they go back on the train, and you can he's the dog's tail between his legs. Doesn't have that ego anymore, and that's probably for the better.
Um, there was a number of
It
times where I
gives up
thought,
it gives up the gun finally to Hubert, actually, the
yeah,
responsible,
and there was a there was
rational.
a there was a number of times where I thought this movie was going to end.
Me too.
Like,
Yeah,
you know, just like maybe when they were leaving Paris, like nothing happened. Like, you know, it was almost like going back to that candid camera story of like, this guy was waiting for something to happen because he knew he saw the producer of Candid Camera. He's a celebrity, blah blah, and he's just waiting for something to happen, and nothing happened.
yeah.
And I had a feeling
Yeah.
like maybe this movie was going to do that, but I was not expecting that ending. I not expecting it at all.
Yeah, so the cops come again. Hubert, this time Hubert wasn't involved, and Vincent's being like frisked with Saeed, and they're just doing the same thing that they normally have done in terms of interrogation and just kind of like roughhousing to some extent, and accidentally shoot Vincent. And then what happens next is Hubert comes, who has the gun in his hands, goes back to the cops, points it at one of the cops, and the movie ends with the cop also pointing his own gun at Hubert. And then there's a gunshot. One gunshot, mind you,
Just one.
unless they shot at the same time. What do you think happened at the end?
What do I think, or what do I want to happen? Maybe
Yeah,
that's
what do you
both,
want?
but
What do you want to happen? Because what do you think? Yeah, what do you want to happen?
I mean, Hubert is the one that has the most promising future. I mean, he's rational. He did own a boxing gym. He's um, wants to get out of the projects, but if he shoots this cop, his life is thrown away. But if he doesn't, and that shot's for him, he's dead, and it's a catch-22. What I want is the cop to die. His friend just died. It's time, like now.
I would, I would want. I don't know what I want. I mean, the movie is what it is ultimately. Um, I don't know what happened either. I mean, it's a weird situation. I've thought about this, and I was like, I never actually get to a finality of me understanding or trying to even understand what actually happened. Um, yeah, I'm not even sure, honestly. But it fun week of movies. With that being said, and the fact that I ate almost an entire chocolate bar when I said I was going to eat three pieces. There goes world champs. There it goes. World camps. So why don't we go to scoring unless you have some other.
I don't have anything other than some taglines for this film.
Oh my god, what are the taglines?
So we have "How far you fall doesn't matter; it's how you land."
That's actually a good
And I,
tagline.
yeah. "An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind."
That's actually pretty
"So far, so good." "Three young friends, one last chance."
actually these are the best taglines yet. Um one of those is one of the best quotes where it's not, what is the story of the man falling from a skyscraper and he goes, so far so good, so far so good, so far so good, each floor he hits, and then he repeats this as well, Saeed. It's not it's basically where you land or when you land. That really truly matters. So why don't we score the films? If you will have me.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm ready for you whenever.
Let's do After Hours first. You're up.
All right, After Hours best performance goes to Griffin Dunn. Just his anxiety and his devolving into the plaster of Paris person that we know today. I thought he was great. His manic energy kind of came through as well near the end. Gave it an 84.
I like your scoring, first of all. Some of the I'm starting to get less objective on things, but like I'm starting to, and I'm comparing it in my head to other things, or I'm trying not to at least. But by not comparing it, you are. That's
Yeah.
my nuance of clarity here. I gave it a 90, primarily because I just thought collectively that it's not like Clerks where like you have such a fantastic screenplay, which I think that the screenplay was excellent, but I think the performance actually was not only fun, but yeah, he crushed. He really crushed. What else was he been in? Has he been in?
American Werewolf in Paris.
Oh, I've never seen that. By the way,
Neither have I.
I'm not a
Maybe we do a.
werewolf vampire guy. I don't know. Is that a thing? Like you're not like into werewolves or like vampires, but I do like Harry Potter. Anyway, everything goes out the window right now. I like
Um,
kids things, but what's happening? Anyway, quote.
uh, best quote. There was a lot of funny lines, funny moments, funny setups, funny kind of almost like non sequiturs in this film. Um, but there's not like a quote that like just stands
Yeah,
out. It's more like the entirety of the script. But it's funny enough. The one that I have written down was after witnessing a murder through a window. Paul Hackett says, "I'll probably get blamed for that."
my favorite. Yeah, it's weird. I didn't know this when I was doing the score. I mean, not to combine the two, but like both movies got an 84 quote from me. Um, primarily of exactly what you just said. It's like it's more of the script, the totality of the script and these scenes, like the scenes, like the candid camera. I was just laughing hysterically about in the toilet scene, but I was like, there's not a quote from that except maybe like, I thought the question is not about do you know God, but does God know you? Um,
Yeah, I had that written down too.
um,
Um,
or do you believe in God? Wrong question. Does he believe in us? Sorry, but I have an 84 on both, and just primarily because I was like, I didn't write a quote down for After Hours.
I do like that they got to squeeze in the title of the film when he says different rules apply when it gets this late, after hours.
Yeah,
Uh,
I that's a Peter Griffin from Family Guy. They always when he's like watching, there's always a reference to that.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, I guess you haven't seen it before.
I
Anyway,
haven't
they
seen
have
it.
they have multiple movies in which they actually talk about like the usage of the title. It's hilarious. I was there.
Your score audio
Mine?
for for me, uh, the score, the audio, the soundtrack, the songs that they used. I kind of do this. Is it okay to do this kind of all encompassing, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was fantastic. I love the score by Howard Shore. Sure, he has this like clock ticking with
Excellent.
this eerie music,
Yeah.
um, and then just the songs that Martin Scorsese picks throughout the film. I give it a 96.
I gave it a 90. I loved it. It reminded me a lot of like Tarantino and very explicitly chosen songs for particular
Yeah.
scenes that I felt really added to a complexity to it. I loved it.
Cool.
It's
As
a
far
score and audio, by the way. So if something doesn't have a song, we are now going to be critiquing the audio. And going forward, we're also going to be critiquing for best performance. I guess we could just do best animation as well.
okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Um, where are we at here? So
Editing.
screen, oh, editing.
Hmm.
Again, great editing of this film. The jarring cuts, the way that there's the master frame and the inserts that they put in there. I gave it a 92.
Yeah. I was absolutely transfixed at the editing in the first 10 or so minutes, even though I was like slightly bored, like I was saying. But I don't like things when I'm bored in the beginning of a movie. It could be also a good thing, just to be abundantly clear. I'm like trying to figure it
Okay.
out, you know. And I like that. I would prefer to have that. Um, but else anyway. So I gave it a 96.5. I'm actually adding point 0.5s because I'm nuts now. I just like to get more specific. But a 96.5, and it's primarily for a lot of reasons. And I thought about the editing of this movie like too many times this week. I would say it went to like weird levels of like, man, the editing the first 10 minutes was so good, and then it was like the editing was so bad, and like the car scenes to me, I was like, why was that there? And then it was such a sporadic weird movie, and then the editing like paused for a large section of it where I didn't notice it. And oftentimes, as you know, like good editing is like what you don't notice. I disagree with that sentiment entirely. Just because you don't notice it doesn't mean it's good editing. It could be completely horrendous editing and you notice it, but in vice versa. But nonetheless, I think it was just excellent overall, and what it needed to get done, and it did it to a T. 96.5 in short.
Cool.
Talking too
My
long.
screenplay writing, uh, fun screenplay, but I think what really brought this movie out was the director. Um, and what you kind of said earlier, like, could the screenplay gotten weirder? Yeah, sure. Would it have been a better film? Probably, maybe.
I don't
Um,
know.
but I like the screenplay. I think it was solid. I gave it an 83.
I like the screenplay. I love the writing. I gave it an 88. I wanted it to go deeper though to the weirdness, and I would have if this got even more weird. Like he was plasterized, and that's how he died, and that's all how these bodies were. That's great. Just that moment would probably get this a 90. Then just that one single change of him, opposed to going back to work. The work, the ending of the work, I was just like, really, really, like, yeah, I don't know. Just, I mean, I'm really splitting hairs here.
Cool. And then the directing for me, I think, like I said, did a fantastic job with just the way that Martin Scorsese moves the camera, even like in that opening shot through the data processing
Yeah,
office,
excellent.
to the way that he kind of zooms in on things and does this camera work. And that scene where Griffin Dunn is in the middle of the street and he's just saying, "Why, God, why? I'm just a data processor," and
Yeah.
just all the ways that he films that is fantastic. I gave it a 94.
I gave it an 89. I liked it. I just for what it's worth, I did appreciate the weirdness of the movie, but I felt like some moments like the rear window scene, which I loved, but it was just like there were just weird choices sometimes throughout, and I think it was just a combination of things. But it was like, uh, I don't know, like Alejandro has weird choices too, or other movies have weird choices, but I think they are more seamless. So I downgraded it a little bit to 89. 90.075. I don't know. I don't know if I've had two movies that both are above 90. I don't think I've had two movies yet that are above 90 collectively.
It's awesome.
I'd appreciate to have these every week, to be
I
clear. So
mean,
La Haine, I again, I love La Haine. Um, it's I'm gonna hate on it for a second, but it's a it's such a top tier movie, and so is After Hours. It's such a top tier movie that I don't mind hating on it to some extent and like really getting nitpicky. But like I'm talking about the difference between being like a a great movie to almost being like a perfect movie. Whereas like I don't know if you to me like a Memento or Old Boy, Motorcycle Diaries, it just has to me everything combined, and there's like not a lot of lag in any aspect to it. And if you were to really quantify and qualify as we're doing in a movie podcast, this is the difference between, I guess, being in a top 100 and being in like a top 25 movie for me. But with that being said, the performance, it's kind of like the same thing as Clerks, although, you know, it's very different movies. The screenplay was so terrific, but the actual actors are way better. Like this is what happens when you have a good script and the actors
are
are
actually
really
good.
troubled and excellent at their job. So I gave it a 98. I mean, it just to me, it's for people that really did have no business. No, I shouldn't say no business acting because they clearly do, but like haven't had the experience yet. They crushed. I mean, Vincent even says to this day, who's I believe I don't know if he's still married to Monica Bellucci, but he is like this my favorite film I've ever been in. Still,
He's had the best career out of the bunch. He's definitely like the most well known. Um, yeah, it was hard for me to pick like out of the three main actors. Well, mainly
oh, you
between
do
I
one.
think.
I do the all collective performance for everybody. That's how I think.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. Um, well, in that
Unless
case,
you're
like I mean,
doing lock that stuff.
I like the person on the phone call
Yeah.
of the other end of the line. Uh,
Do you think that lady's still watching right now? The hater.
I hope so because I have been serious this time. I don't think I cracked a smile at once.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm talking
So,
about like a cop shooting somebody, and we didn't take this serious enough. Sorry, lady, whoever you are.
but performance solid, not masterclass like a uh, you know Daniel Day Lewis kind of you know get into the that character, but they got into the minds of these characters. I feel like pretty well. I gave it an 87.
Quote. I mean, it's the same. It's 84 as I've already said. I didn't. I liked extension of the quotes, like you know, like pick up some lettuce when you're along the way, but it's not like groundbreaking. So it was an 84. It was funny, but 84. It was just
See, my interpretation for this one, I think the quotes were better in this because there was just more meat to chew on, like of these
sure.
ideas.
Yeah.
Um, and that's kind of why I elevated the quote on this more so than, I mean, it's not going to be like,
You don't have to be me. I don't have to be you.
yeah, but it's not like the iconic, I think we're going to need a bigger boat, kind of quote that's in, that lives in everybody's head. But I did like it. And I thought there was a lot of meaning behind, like, the just, it's not a quote, but a monologue, a story from the old man in the bathroom. I gave it a 96.
The similar score in the audio, for a large part of the movie, I was like, is there a soundtrack to this? And then, it kind of chimed in from time to time. But I gave it an 83. You know, not not a whole lot going on there, but I did think that the movie's choice of the director's choice of music was good, but it's all right. It's okay.
I mean, I gotta give props to the whoever chose the music for this film. Like, getting the Wailers, Burnin' a Luton, and you have the
Bob
Beastie
Marley.
Boys. You have Bob Marley. You have like all these, just again great, great picks to add to the. element of the film, but it doesn't trap it. I don't feel like it traps it in the 90s. Like this movie does feel timeless, even with the
Yeah.
music, aside from the breakdancing scene. Um, it feels timeless. And I gave that score a 92, score and audio.
And then editing. So editing, screenplay, writing, and directing. I'll just do all three at once. They I love the editing. There were so many shots as well, just as I did with After Hours. But really, in Haine, in particular, I wrote down in one in which when the DJ was playing, and I was wondering how they did that overhead shot. I was like, that is so goddamn good. Like, there's no drones back then, and there's no helicopter there because it's too close to the ground, and everything would be like dispersing. And I was like, how on effectively a smaller budget do they do this? And there's just so many times where I was like, I wrote down notes of this movie, and I was like, I need to know how this was done. Because eventually, if we ever do a movie ourselves, I think it'd be useful. But the editing, I gave a 92. The screenplay, I thought it's one of maybe I actually would make this less, but I love this movie and I love the screenplay in general. I gave it a 99.5. Um, I just like I like movies that are able to mix comedy, drama, intersperse it with each other, and it still be serious and taken seriously, because this is to be taken seriously. Um, and I'm not talking about going the full step into black comedy, which I also love, but it's a step back from that, almost. It may be two steps back from a black comedy. I love that. And it's able to pull it off extremely well. For example, the scene with the guy shitting and talking about his life, and just the lettuce, and just like I like it because it's life in general. We laugh, and we also have dramatic moments, and they could be side by side with each other, and they could be like minutes away from each other, and I think it's real. And I think the representation of the performance mirrors that. And I think they actually, and that's why I was saying, like, it feels like this is their character, and maybe they've done this before, and maybe they lived it in those 2 months in the projects. But to me, it really came to life. So 92 and then 99.5. And I'll save the directing for last.
Yeah, 92 for me for editing as well. Thought it was fantastic. Just the way that they captured the scenes, and a lot of these shots were long shots, you know, long pans, the camera moves, the camera moves around them, but able to actually hold these shots and get these performances out of them are great. As far as the screenplay writing, um, I agree with you 100%. Life is serious. Life is funny, and it can change on the flip of a coin. And that's what this movie does, and that's what makes it so great. I probably should have given this higher, but I gave it a 90. The
I should
screenplay
have
is
gone lower, to be
fantastic.
honest. I would have, I don't know what. I think I actually mistyped this, to be fair, but I'm going to leave it as is. 99.5 seems a bit high. Like, going back, I think I've mistyped this, but nonetheless, leave it as is. Dave Portnoy doesn't redo his picks on pizza, so I guess we won't either. Although I do want to probably rewatch After Hours in like 3 months, and then rescore it, because I think it's going to be more like a 95 for me, because I although I am always going to not hate, I'm going to want that extra step to be taken. I love weird movies that just get strange. Like 12 Monkeys went weird enough
Mhm.
for me, like Holy Mountain went weird enough for me. El Topo goes weird, but if you're able to like meld it with an allegory, directing 94, I really like the choices. I liked There's just so many shots again of the editing plus directing that just was like, wow, how did this? I don't know. You don't see very often, and I really appreciate it. So yeah, 94.
Yeah, my feeling on the directing was one of that like this is one of the most beautifully shot films uh, in the last, you know, 30, 40 years. It's just gorgeous. And the fact that, eh, Mathieu Kassovitz is not like a household name like a Martin Scorsese
He hasn't
or
done
something
anything
like
really.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, Gothica in 2003, I remember that, but I didn't never watched it. Like, did he just spend his load on the first movie and just like, that's my creative juice and I don't have any more.
I think
I give
so.
him a 95 on this. 95,
Yeah.
one of the highest, ratings I'll give to a director. And it's because this film deserves it.
Yeah, I mean it's fun. I wish just every week was like this. Although it's up to us to to choose, so we could.
Speaking of, do we even have a 25
We
topic?
do, we do, and it's best Shakespeare movies, and one in which I was going back and forth on, or I should say, just Shakespeare movies. I don't know if they're best or not best. So the backstory to this was we were trying to decide of a topic in Shakespeare, and what did you want to choose? You wanted to choose. Wait, what was your top three? You said you had many to choose.
I like 10 Things I Hate About You. I liked, was it Throne of Blood?
And there's, I don't
And
think.
it's the same director of, let's see. As we get this going here, we are talking about Akira Kurosawa in, um, it was his last film. Um,
Throne of Blood. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah, I have it. Or, because I've been anticipating this, so I bought pretty much all his films.
um, yeah, and Ran. I think we talked about Ran as well.
Yeah, I don't have to look this up now, but um, I guess I am looking it up now. 400 Blows. I have Seventh Seal, Kuru. Going too far back, I've bought too many movies recently. It appears it's gonna take a while, but nonetheless, um, Ran, Ran was my pick from the beginning. But with that said, I I'm jealous. Is really what I'm trying to say. I love 10 Things I Hate About You. Like this is gonna be tough for me. It's gonna be really tough for me, and they're very different movies. But uh, that's why I didn't want to do this topic where I was like, let's do silly ones, and then you're like, I want 10 Things I Hate About You. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore because I'm like, I really want 10 Things I Hate About You because I wrote like a thesis to somebody, a text, why that movie is like a perfect everything. And I'm already getting into like my adoration for it. I love that movie, and it's got Heath Ledger, but like it's really goddamn good. So
I
with
haven't seen
Grant,
it in a long time,
I've seen it recently,
but I'm okay.
like a year and a half ago, and it's like, this is still terrific, like terrific.
I don't think when I watched it originally that I knew it was based on a Bard play. Um,
Yeah, it's good. So it's
but here we are.
yeah, they're both fantastic in their own right. But that's next week, top 25. Uh,
Hey, let's show that cup one more time so we can do a rollout of this Scene Weekly merch. Follow us at Scene Weekly. There we are. That's what we're talking about. Holds all of your hot beverages and cold ones too.